Hi, it's Lil from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. And if you're interested in finding out how you can paint yourself a willow pattern dresser, follow along. So how did we start? This was the piece, the way it arrived to us. It's been cleaned. I'm going to get Martin to zoom in on it. It has 3 cupboards, 3 drawers on the bottom, brass sort of handles, just your bog standard pine sort of dresser fare. It has quite a few marks on the top here, which we'll cover with paint, and up here it's got a hole. It's just where the knot has been. I'll fill that with wood filler, but that's it. Bog standard pine. We're going to turn it into something amazing, hopefully. Okay, so the piece has been painted white. Where do I begin to explain about this? I painted it 2 coats of self-leveling paint, but round these edges here, you really need a nice piece of furniture, and I didn't realise this piece was as chipped as it was. So then what I did was I gave it 2 coats of chalk paint, cross hatch, give it a bit of texture. It's still not, if this was a piece of white furniture and I was only selling this as a white piece of furniture, I'd be giving this another probably 2 coats. However, what we're about to do with this and all the detail that's going to go over the top of it, at the end of the day, it's fine for what we're going to do. So I'm quite relaxed about it. Now, in a minute, before we start, I'm going to take the top part off. I always think when you're working on something so large, it's a bit overwhelming to see it all at once. We'll put the side bit over there and that'll be something to do later on. We'll focus just on this main part of the dresser. Now, if you're going to do this, first of all, I'll tell you what it's going to be. We are doing a willow pattern china, willow pattern china effect paint job on this dresser. That's why it's white to start with. There's going to be lots of blue and things. So the side here, I've got various, I've literally got everything blue known to man. I've got all blue acrylic pens, blue paints, all sorts of stuff, blue, all shades of blue. We're going to need every shade of blue. I'm going to be using some stamps. Now, you don't need to go out rush out and buy tons and tons of stamps. 1 set of stamps would do, and I think the Bohemian Stamps, the IOD, this is purely going to be an IOD dresser. Now, just because I have them, I've brought out lots of different kinds. I don't know which ones I'm going to really use yet. We're going to be doing a lot of stamping. We're going to be doing some easy, nothing Picasso. We're not doing the Sistine Chapel. Easy hand painting that anybody can do, just with a little bit of a doodle on the front panels. And I think that's all really I have to say about this right now. So let's get on and get actually started. So I can understand what you're thinking. You're looking at this finish and there are a couple of spots of bleed through. I wasn't worried about those because on my research on vintage willow pattern china, china gets greased and discoloured through the years, so I was happy to run with that. If you're wanting pristine, Zinsser bin it, get it primed, paint over the top of it, or a spray of shellac, put it over the top of that. For me, it wasn't bothered, and to be honest with you, I'm used to working with such dark colours that bleed through never ever is not something I really deal with very often. I have it, I could do it, but I'm not gonna. Texture, yeah, there's quite a lot of texture, but I quite like texture, so I'm okay with that. Now, with the darkest blue, and we're going to just be working with all shades of blue, what I'm going to do is paint this edge, this edge, this edge, this edge, all the lips of all the drawers on the front. So I'll just show you so we can get started, because there's quite a lot to do, so I can imagine this is going to be a little bit boring. So I'm just going to go round all of the edges with my dark blue. That's what I'm going to do to start with. We are going to come back and put a design on this, but we need this blue. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to do all of these edges blue, yeah? And then we'll come back again in a minute. Okay, so just off camera, I was just getting everything organised, and I'm going to show you how to put the front together. So you saw me do the blue band, that's it, done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a print along here, and I'm using this stamp. It's an IOD stamp, and I'm not using the whole, I'm just kind of doing like that along the edges. I've got blue ink, which I'm just off camera making sure that I've got plenty of ink on, and you can probably get 2 goes at this. So if you're clever, you could probably do something like Now, you'll see when I pan back, you're going to touch parts of the white, and we can touch all those up if there's any parts that don't look like, you know, they should be stamped. So don't worry too much about that. They can just be touched up. So I'm doing that there. I'm flipping it round to get the rest of the ink. And I'm just doing this here. And that's all I'm doing around the edges. I'll just do that again, just so you can see it. So I'm just stamping up my ink pad, putting plenty of ink on it. You can hear me really bashing it on. And I'm going to do this here. And then flip round and do the other side here with this side. It's a little bit messy, but I have looked at an awful lot of willow pattern. So I just best picked out what stamps, and I'm not actually using, I don't know what's going to happen with the top and the sides, but at the front I've really kind of only used this one, another one, and a little bit of sort of trim. So that's going on there like that. Up the top here I have this stamp from the Peoneys Stamp, and I'm inking this up. And what I'm doing here is I'm just putting one kind of going this way. That's why I said to you I wasn't too worried about that bleed through, because that's under that part of that little bit of bleed through that I had. And we're going to be kind of watercolouring this in with blue. So one here. And the other side at another sort of kind of this sort of angle. You can see I'm not really measuring it out. I'm not too worried about little whoopsies on the drawers. It's all going to have that sort of look when it's done, so I'm not too concerned about it. Pat that one down a bit better than I did. So got that there, and the last thing I need is this little piece of trim, again from the same set as this one. And this one could really be doing with mounted, but these are so old and so overused that they don't stick to anything. I could get a little bit of spray adhesive and try and stick it to something, but it's given me a kind of like, what will we say, a rustic edge, because it's not exactly straight. I'm putting this round the drawers like this, and I'm putting this all the way around my drawers. If you have little bits that doesn't quite stamp, I'm quite bold, just go back in and do something like that. So this is going all the way around here as well, and the same in the inside here. So in a minute I'm just going to go back off camera and I'm going to go round and put all these stamps in till we get to the next part, because you don't need to see me keep on stamping. So this is going all the way around the inside of the door as well. So I'll go on and do that, and then we'll get to painting and doing some design work on this. There we go. So I'll get on to doing the rest of this here and the rest of this round here. So that's all that stamped in. And now we're going to work on the drawer. I'm just going to remove the drawer. I'm going to sit it down here. And all I'm doing is I'm getting an acrylic pen, and I'm just going to do this kind of pattern, and I'll just show you the top. So it's just a kind of like, what would we call this? A kind of hill shape. So you're just doing a kind of hill shape, and that's an easy way to remember it. All the way along with your white pen. So you get to the edge, and at this edge I'm going to just do my hill coming round. Once you've done your hill, you're just going above your hill in between. So kind of like that. So it's your hill, and you're kind of then making a sort of, this here, a sort of kind of diamondy shape with a kind of curvy top. So you're just going around joining up like that. And this is what I've done round all of the drawers and round the cupboards, like here. And then where your little point is, you're just doing two flicks, like that, 2 flicks. Now this is where it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a little bit of zhuzh, and when it all gets put together, this sort of dark rim with the white looks pretty good. So along there like that, and I'm going to go on and I'm going to do the whole of that drawer in a minute, but that's how it looks when it goes back in. Now as for these, what I did was I just used a mix of the blue, which was the Oxford blue that went round here, and I just really watered it down, but I also had an acrylic pen at the same time. If you kind of, Martin, could you just kind of show them this? This is what we're trying to get to here. Now I added this blue in because on looking at a lot of willow pan, it's got this kind of blue in it as well sometimes. So I wanted to incorporate that. Now you can see there's some parts here that need touched up. These are the parts that I was saying to you at the end. You know, they're going to be little parts that need touched up, but we're forging on with the whole piece. Then I'll fix all the front as I go. I also run this blue here around these edges, and I'm going to show you how I did it on this one here. So I only picked this empty curved surface here, and all I did was I just literally got my acrylic pen and ran it into it, just a little squiggle, got a wet brush and just painted it in like this. Painted that colour in, and that's basically how I did that. I'll do another one here. So just painted, put a little bit of acrylic pen and watered down my paint like that. That's how I did it, just to give it that sort of watery coloured look. Around the edges here where it's a little bit darker, I put quite a lot on. Watered it down. I just wanted to give it some shading, and I just brought that down the edges like that. You can make it a little bit darker if you want to add a little bit more acrylic. And I just kind of did this down. I just wanted to have a little bit of like shading in this sort of blue like that. So I did that all the way around the edges. I did all of these. Gosh, I've went and done another one. That's not what I was planning to do, but okay. So I did all of these with the water like that. Up here, I kind of did some of the leaves like this and watered them down. You can just wipe it back up. We're going for really loose. You can paint them imperfect. If that's the look you're going for, I'm going for quite a loose look. And the other blue is just a little piece of this, the original Oxford blue from the rim, and I just watered it down and I just put it in sort of darker and lighter areas. Plenty of water on my brush and just painted it in like that. You want to leave a bit of white in there as well. Gives it that sort of kind of watercolour-y effect. That's what I did there. So here I'm start with my blue, water down my brush, and then I'm going to go back to this blue, and we're going to put some here, and we're just going to water that in. Don't mind the drips, just catch some with your brush. There we go. So something a little bit like this. I went back and put, what I did was I had some blue alcohol ink, and all I did was I've used the top of my paint as a little tray. It's a very, very royally blue, and what I did was while it was still wet, I just did this and kind of just gave it a little bit of movement with my hands like this, doing this. If I thought it was too much, I can water it down. And again, I just added some of that over the top of it. It gives it just a little bit more sort of dimension. The alcohol ink is quite true to the sort of colours that the willow pattern china is. So you can see, I mean, this isn't the Sistine Chapel we're painting, it's just a suggestion. So that's what I did there. I used the corner of the Bella Stamp. This is the corner of the Bella Stamp, and all I did was I just got my ink pad and I just inked up certain pieces of it like this, and I just put little parts around the edges of where the border is like that. Didn't put a huge amount of thought into it. I just kept it nice and loose, like that. A bit turning that way, some up there and some there. And that's what I did with this. That's what I did with these drawers. I want to have a sidey bit there, turn that there, bit there. That just kind of fills that in. So that's the drawers done. All three drawers now look the same. I'll go back and I'll fix all the little boo-boos. Now this panel. For this panel, I sellotaped 2 pieces of carbon paper together. I made sure the tape wasn't too tacky, and it's just to kind of get it roughly the same as the panel that's over the other side. The one in the middle is going to have a pagoda in it. Now I looked at lots of different sort of inspo, and I wanted mine really loose and painterly, but you could print something off the internet and just trace it on, or you could just do more florals. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I picked this tree and I decided to do circles. I socked that on quite a lot of it instead of the sort of willow leaves. The other one at the moment looks a little bit out of place, but I think when I get this one on, it'll work. Now, because I did it this side and I want to do it the opposite way, you need to turn it round like this so that it's going, this is just a rough guide. Turn it around like that. Oop. And you're popping this into the gap and sticking that up onto there like that. There we now. Now I just need to find my pencil, which I have here, and all I'm doing on this is just roughly, now I've used a bit of artistic license on the one that's on the other door, so I might have to kind of match them up a little bit if it doesn't quite work. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to trace this out so that the carbon paper below just traces my design. I mean, I just literally just scribbled this off on the bottom of the stable floor. You may want to, I did a whole diagram of how this piece was going to look. I planned it to perfection, and then but I was still, up until this morning, wasn't quite sure what I was going to put in these panels. But during the night, because I've got insomnia, so I don't sleep, so during the night I started to look at different kinds of willow pattern, and I quite liked, like, this kind of ball sort of idea kept coming up, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to run with this. So I'm going to just quickly trace this out and I'll be back in a minute. So predominantly this one I'm using the ink. I want it to be that real sort of Wedgwoody, have that sort of real Wedgwoody sort of kind of look about it. So I'm just painting them in, but I'm leaving bit parts that are white. So really roughly, you can see how loose the style is. I don't know if you've seen like the brushes that you use for doing oriental sort of writing. They're quite big, and well, it depends what they're painting with, but my daughter's got some, and you know, the style is quite loose. So I'm just doing something like this with these sort of round circles at the moment. And as I said, I think I used artistic license on the other side, so we might have to kind of make it match. So it doesn't matter if some of them are slightly lighter and you're adding more water. That's okay. I mean, I'm not wanting to go, I'll do this off camera. I'm just going to do it as quick as I can, without you getting too bored. I'll water down this a little bit. So you can see that it's quite runny. Need a bit more ink. And this alcohol ink, it's not very expensive. You'll probably get it on eBay. I've had it for a while. I used it in, like, kind of when I was going through my resin phase. There's been quite a few phases, but I don't very often use alcohol ink. have a better brush actually. This one's kind of separating a little bit, but so really loose. Oh, kind of went to town on that one there. In a minute, I think this might make sense to you when you see the other side. And then, as I said, in the centre, I'm going to do a sort of pagoda. So I think pretty much if I just go on, I'll stop the camera and I'll go on and I'll paint the tree in. I'm going to be painting the tree in the same colour of ink until we get to the sort of hills. Yeah? So now I'm just, ooh, that's a bit dark. So now I'm just going to wash in this sort of colour here in the sort of negative spaces. It's just this blue really watered down. I'm trying not to use like masses of blue. If you don't like that, give a wee rub with your hands. I'm just doing this. I've just seen lots of artwork like this and I'm just kind of going for it. I'm not. Yeah, it's quite loose like that. The top of my hill or my mountain. This part here, like this, and this bit down here. So you can see what I'm doing. It's very, very loose. Just paint that whole thing in and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, I feel like I need my cloth a little bit because that there's a very kind of bit dark and I want it to touch down there. Don't want too much smearing going on. Yeah, I think I'm quite happy with that. Now, the last thing I did was I got the original blue without any water, just as paint. And this is your dark, this is your low lights. So I'm trying to kind of keep it something similar to what I've got over the other side. I've got a fear that when I step back, there'll be nothing like each other, but that'll be all the fun of the piece, won't it? People will know it's hand painted. So you can see you're not having to be hugely, you're not having to really be artistic at all. And I wanted to be able to do something that you'd easily be able to recreate it without, you know, it being a hard thing to create. So I'm just going to come along here. I'm going to come down here like this. Like that. I'm just following the lines of where my carbon was. Give the tree some movement. And I want to do something like this. This is where I know that it doesn't look like the other one, but we'll work that out. Some of these around here could do a little bit dark. Now, the last thing I did, now this is all getting a bit wet. The last thing I did was I have this little swallow stamp. It's an old one, it's from a really old IOD one. I've had it for years, but I don't want to use it because when I stamped it on this side, it's a little bit, really needs a good clean. So I'm going to clean it and it's going to go somewhere about there. So that's it. I've just kind of shown you a rough way to do, keeping it really quite loose, and you can fiddle around with it until you're happy. I just wanted it that sort of style that I knew that I had seen. But if this, as I said, if you want to just think, if you think, oh, I'm not confident, just use your stamps, do something different instead. I'm just going to put some more of this blue here, the watered down blue in here like this, and some here, and some in there like that. And pretty much that's all I did. And you saw how long it took. It didn't take very long. So I'm going to just get on and get myself ready for the middle panel. Okay, so I decided I was just going to start drawing this in, and I thought, oh, well, do you know what? I'll just show you me doing this. So in this section here, I just want to do a sort of pagoda, so I'm going to do another straight edge here, and we can paint all this in a minute. So like that, and then I think I want another fancy piece coming out here like that. Just using, well, I can use my sort of my wooden bits as a kind of keeping me right kind of thing. But I think I want my roof to come around like this time, like that. And then I want another straight bit, or straight-ish. Oops, gone right off there. At least you can see it as it actually happens. There, and I want something down here. Something like that. Now, let's get some colour on it first, and then let's stamp over it. So, using the selection of the colours we have, I'm going to do the alcohol ink. I'll do the roof of the pagoda in alcohol ink, like that. Just thinking of the sort of painterly style you painted the other sections in, even some white. The next part I'll paint the actual dark blue. So this is this dark blue here. And I'm letting my brush get a little bit lighter as we go into the middle. Quite like those strokes on that, like that. Something a bit like that. And the next part, we shall do the watered down variation of the Oxford blue, which is the lighter sort of kind of almost greeny blue here. Yeah, quite like it. If that doesn't drip, that'll be quite good. I'll water my brush a little bit more, and I'll just do this here and make it even lighter. Like this. And then we'll go back to the alcohol ink blue here. So I'm just varying the colours, just all the colours that are in the cupboard. You can see there's lots of little things I have to fix. So all I'm doing here is just laying down some colour, because I'm going to stamp over the top of this. I don't want that to be too wet, so I'm just going to try and catch these drips. Like that. We'll sort all that in a minute. Like that. And then I want to put a fence at the bottom area here, so we'll get to that. So I'm just going to let that dry before I can stamp on it. Okay, so I got a little bit carried away off camera. I did some little bells here, and I put the same stamp, which is this stamp, here and down the bottom. This one here is just the same one from the Bella Stamp. So now I'm just going to, this time I'm going to do some white. My white is starting to look a little bit grey, just because it's been used repeatedly over the blue. And all I'm doing here is I'm just giving it a little pagoda, a little bit of definition, and that's all I'm doing. Now the next thing that we're going to be doing is I've decided I'm probably not going to over pattern the sides, but I do need something to pull some of these spaces here together. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this band around the top, the blue, and this band on the side, the blue. And that's us getting to work on the top. I might put something down here, but I'm quite liking just that, because each panel is so busy, I think I might just keep this white just now until we see where we go. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm just doing a little bit of if you see some of the pagodas, they've got like sort of kind of little fences that are on the front like this. So I'm just going to do this, and then that's just back Louise motion like that. I'm hoping it doesn't look like a lighthouse. So there you go, that's the front nearly done. And I might highlight some of these areas here, just little highlights here and there. That's that done. Nothing too complicated there, nothing too complex, nothing too difficult. So we're going to crack on with the top now. So I've painted the blue edge down the sides and here. So now I've got a sponge, and it's much easier to paint lines like this with a sponge. I've just ran it along with the blue, and as round the edges of the drawers down there, I've just got the white acrylic pen and I've done a pattern. These squares, all I have done to get these squares is I've got a makeup sponge, and I'm just checking that, oh hang on, my glasses. I've just done this down the sides like this, and I can show you how it actually looks when it's, and what I've done is I've just done a sort of kind of square sort of, I saw it in a lot of willow pattern china, and I'll show you in a minute. I just want to finish this off whilst talking. Whoops. I've just put this kind of square in the middle of it. Now I have these little, I'm going to fix all the boo-boos at the end, and I need to tidy that edge up. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp up here. I'm wanting to keep, I want to try and keep the majority of the actual back of the dresser white, because if people want to display, I'm not saying they'll want to display willow pattern china, but they might have something they want to put on it, and I don't want it to get too busy too quick. So really, in theory, I'm going to be stamping up this top edge, and then I might just do actual willow, not the bally tree that I did down there. Just a little bit of willow coming out from the edge with sort of catkins and things on this edge. I might do a pattern on this blue, on this white edge down here. I've still got the top to do, and I'll work out what another thing about furniture that is crazy busy, and I find this, and I've found this to my own detriment with my own furniture when I do things that are a little bit crazy. It's really nice to have a whole load of furniture out in the front of your furniture, but it's also really nice to walk into a room and your furniture is actually just one colour. I do often carry patterns round the side of furniture, but this is quite busy, and I think it'll get too much. And how is it going to sit in a room when it's too busy on the sides? So I may just keep the sides white and do a little bit more. I don't want this to get too crazy busy. The top's going to be quite busy, so you know, busy is good for me, but there's over busy. So just think about how if somebody buys your furniture, or it's your own furniture, how it's going to sit in your room. It's really important, because I have done that before. I have painted a beautiful dresser, but I did the sides and everything, and when you walked into the room, it wasn't just a statement piece, it commanded everything. So I've learned a valuable lesson there. It's fine if it's going to be a standalone sort of thing, but if you want this to sit with other things, just kind of think about that. So I'm just inking up another one of my stamps. I'm not inking it, I'm putting paint on it. I'm talking rubbish. Just with a makeup sponge. This is the one that I'm going to choose to put at the top. I think this stamp is from the Folk Art set by IOD, but I will list all my stamps at the very end on what ones I've used and which ones I haven't used. I haven't actually used too many, but you could get away with one set and just change them up a bit. Right, I've learned now that this time I need to make it a little bit more juicy. If you're working on furniture like this, you can lean things like this on it so that it doesn't go on your furniture. Right, one more, we'll give it one more try. And never mind if they don't quite fit. It's not something that particularly bothers me. Give it a good push down this time. I think maybe that was what the problem with the last one was. Martin, is that your stomach rumbling? Right. There we go. And I'm just going to do this right along this top edge. So I'm just putting some stamping on the insides of here. I just thought I'd show you. And I've put a G shape with the lighter acrylic marker in between those there, just to pull the light of the bottom and the dark together. So I'm just doing this. Now it fits 1.5. So I can probably just be cheeky and maybe cheat without inking it up again and do. So that's those sides done. Now, next thing I'm going to do, and I'm just going to totally wing it, is I'm going to do some willow pattern coming in from the side. Yeah, that'll do. So what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to do 3 branches coming out from the side. Something like that. I'm going to try and repeat it on all 3. It doesn't have to be the exact same, but it helps. Oh, I need this one. And I'll just do this one too. And I'm just using the ink, the alcohol ink for this. At the end, this whole piece will need to be sealed because it's got multiple different kinds of paint on it. And so I've done that part, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to get some in my back pocket. I'm going to draw on the catkins. Now, my pen was upside down before, so it's probably, but we're going to put texture over the top of them. Let me see if this is going to work, or whether we should do it in dark. Let's have a wee look. What would be better? Let me just have a fiddle around. I think the dark's going to be better, so we'll just do something like this. I want them kind of long and a little bit thinner, like kind of like this. I want to try and incorporate all my colours up here. Sometimes in that light, that blue looks almost purple, and I'm not. It's just because we've got multiple studio lights on it, but it's not actually like that. It's not as purple as it looks. So something like this, very organic, nothing difficult to paint in. I'm not asking for anybody to try and get, you know, anything complicated. I'm just going to go over that because I'm not loving the look. And literally, that's all I'm going to do on this. I'm going to do it the exact same on the other side. I'm just trying to. I might come back and put a little bit of lighter blue in this, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to put one on the end there. Carry that branch across. Okay. I've done the branches, and what I did was I incorporated the sort of 3 colours we were using, which is the Oxford Navy, the watered down Oxford Navy, and this blue here is the acrylic marker. I did the same on both sides, and I stamped a bird, a swallow, kind of going in different directions. Unfortunately, I don't have one that goes back that way, so unfortunately my swallows are all going that way. I then took the blue, which is the Oxford Navy watered down, and did in here, just to kind of give it a little bit of detail. And then I tried to sort of watercolour this part here. I was thinking of dishes, and I was thinking of what I've seen. Now, I want to ground this, but keep this light. I was going to do a whole load of pattern on it, but I'm not going to. I've got a blue, which is this lovely colour here, which is called Pale Roundel Blue by Guild Lane. It's a self-sealing paint. I'm going to get Martin to take the top back off just now while I paint this the blue, and we'll see how we go with that. I may do the sides this blue as well, just to see if it pulls it all together, but I'm really happy with it so far, and there's some lovely detail in it and things. I still have those little parts of bleed through here. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them. I might just leave them alone, I don't know. Okay, so I painted the top, I painted the sides this blue as well, and I painted the sides of the top, just so that you're all caught up with what I've done. What I did do was, which I think tomorrow I'm going to get rid of, I went and put some stamps here, but I think that was better just being a negative space. I have put them down the bottom, which is fine. I wanted that because we've got the blue up here and the blue down the bottom, and that's the same corner from the Bella stamp. These are from the Folk Art stamp, but I think tomorrow morning I'll just paint those out. I'm not loving those, and put it back to just having white. These handles, they need screwed in. They're a bit loose. I just wanted to try them. They were cream flowers, and what I've done is I've painted them the same blue as the top. It's self-sealing paint, but what I'll do is I'll clear wax them, and then I think what I'll do is I'll white wax them just to buff them back. But I just really wanted to kind of see them on the piece. When I'm quitting for today, I think I've done enough. I've been here all day, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let this all dry overnight. Tomorrow the top goes on. We'll do a quick seal of all of the front and the middle part of the top, and then we'll get to staging. I'm just going to impart a top tip here for lacquering. If you get like the lid of an ice cream tub and one of the, you know, the green scrubby sponges, you just cut the green part off and you're left with something this shape, which has got a kind of handle for you here, which means you can just dip straight into the container like that. And a really good way of just lacquering is just going straight across like that. It kind of eradicates all your wrinkles, sorry, not your wrinkles, your drip marks, and it's just a quick, easy way to do it. There you go. These just wash them once you're done. I'm at the process of just about to lacquer the doors, but I'm still trying to paint in those stamps that I didn't like it made too busy. So I'm just doing that just now. So I decided that this, I wanted it really loose and almost crude like some of the blue and white china that I saw, but I decided to kind of just give it a little bit of a tighten up by just kind of going around the edges a little bit with a black pen and just doing these sort of lines just in and around the edges. Pick another one here, just to kind of tighten it up a little bit, make it look less kind of crude and a little bit more, although there was thought put into it, but make it look less like, I'm just conscious of the fact that because my stamps are quite like neat and they've got all the detail, that this sort of tree hasn't got as much detail. So all I'm doing is putting the detail on now. I've already sealed this piece, which makes it much easier for your acrylic pen to run on. Just there's a top tip there, and what you can do is once you've done this, just let it dry, and then just swipe over it again with the sponge and the lacquer just to seal this in. It's acrylic, it shouldn't be going anywhere, but you want it to be completely washable and wipeable for like a modern home. So I'm just going to go on and do that, and we're nearly finished now. So the whole piece has been sealed, and I just want to now run over with some white wax on a little artist brush just to try and put a wee bit more detail into these handles. Just, I want them to blend in. I don't want them to stand out too much, but I want to give them a little bit of a zhuzh. So I'm just doing that, and then we'll get to the big reveal. Finished. So this has been a little bit of a labour of love. It's been quite involved, but I really like the way it's turned out. So let's just quickly walk through what we did, just so that you can remember when you're doing it yourself. So painted the whole piece white multiple coats. I think this had about 4, could have done with another couple if it was just going to be plain white. I then stamped the drawers with the Peoneys Stamp from IOD, did the pattern with an acrylic pen round the drawers, round the front. I hand painted, I drew out a sort of rough design for my trees and then replicated it on the other side so they were there and thereabouts. Did a pagoda in the middle, more stamping from the Bohemian set of stamps, those ones. And this in here, we hand painted some willow with the 3 different colours to incorporate it. Did this sort of pattern around the top, around here. Also painted this a wedge blue wood sort of bluey colour, which is called Pail Roundel Blue from Guild Lane. Look out for more videos with this colour. I love it, and so does Martin. Martin's been wowed by this colour. So painted the sides blue, put on our handles, sealed it, put it on our handles, painted our handles because they were cream and made them blue, and then added white wax. And I think that's just about everything. It is, if you're going to start this kind of piece of furniture, I reckon probably better on a bedside cabinet to begin with. Start small, work up big, and then that way you've got your technique down and you know what you're doing and you know how your stamps are going to perform. I used indigo blue ink from a stamp pad. And that makes it a much more detailed stamp, whereas up the top I just put rollered paint onto that stamp. That's from the Folk Art, IOD Folk Art stamps. That's about it really. I really like it. It's really fresh. If you're doing a dresser, don't overpower the top. You'll see it when you see the photographs. People want to put things on their shelves, and if it's too busy, their beautiful things are lost. And ask me how I know this, because I've done it to one of my own pieces. I was so caught up in the design that when I actually put it into my house, anything beautiful that I had, you couldn't see because all the design overpowered it. So keep your space where people are going to display things quite pared back, just a little bit of detail to carry it through. It's good that it's white, and I've staged it out quite simply with some greenery, but it would look good with yellows and lemons, and orange would work beautiful with this as well. So you could have like an orange dinner service and you could display it all. It's got plenty of design options and staging options. I just went for very simple, but you can see that it's not too busy, and you could stage that out with your own things. You could put your own things along here, baking bowls and food mixers and all the things that you might need. So that's it. I've been Lel from Made by Marley. I'd just like to say thank you so much to everybody who has subscribed. I find that really hard to say. I don't know if you know every video, I can't say subscribed recently. We really are. I mean, it's not just, I've heard other YouTubers say, oh, I'm so grateful. But you know what? We really are truly grateful. We really are. We read every comment. I personally answer every comment. Martin reads the comments out to me. We really are overwhelmed by what's happened recently, and we're soon, very soon, going to be at 1,000 followers. And I used to think that I was just kind of talking to myself, but now I feel like there is actually people that are, well, you say you like it, so I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. So please share our videos, like our videos, comment on our videos. Please don't forget to subscribe, and push the bell notification so you're notified when we release a new video. We'll be going back on to 2 videos. We had a backlog due to tech issues, and I don't know if you noticed there was one every couple of days. We'll be going back to 2 videos. There might be a third each week. It depends what we're doing. I mean, I can throw in a commission piece, maybe something like that, which is a little bit different. Commission pieces you tend to see me doing kind of a little bit more pared out, a little bit more. They want it painted, they want it blended with some transfers, but it's always good to pick up all the little details and things that I might do. So that's all coming down the pipeline. So thank you very much. Bye bye.